We're here today with Richard Lavina. Richard, you're with Boeing out of Auburn, right? Better known to a lot of people as Seattle, Washington. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself working at Boeing and your background?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I work in Boeing Auburn. It's basically their fabrication headquarters. So that's pretty much where all the parts that Boeing makes comes out of, not all of them, but the majority of them come out of Auburn itself. My background is I did construction for about 20 years on and off, primarily with underground sprinkler systems. Then like 2008, 2009, when the economy went downhill, I decided to make a change that I didn't like to dig outside anymore for a living. So at that time I went back to school and I got a bachelor's degree in electronics engineering. And then from there kind of progressed to a machine tool builder, which they kind of build machines all the way from the ground up. CNC equipment, forging equipment, all kinds of stuff. And that was pretty crazy because it was my job recruiter from the college I was at sent me this little, looked like newspaper clipping, and it says, must be willing to work hard and travel. I was like, yeah, I don't know about this. Got me selling vacuum cleaners, but it turned out to be basically a CNC repair technician. And then from there kind of progressed on to Boeing. At the time at GFM, I kind of traveled all over North America and Europe, and then was kind of getting tired of it with, trying to have a family and then traveling and everything. It kind of got to be a little much, but that led me to Boeing.
Yeah, I can feel some of those pains. I got into the machine tool industry in '98. I've traveled all over the country. I've actually been to Auburn several times. I'm a CNC spindle guy. I've been to your spindle room. You guys have some very impressive equipment, some really good technicians working there. So very impressive. Love talking to you. Just out of curiosity, there's a couple questions I always ask, and Gretchen is now representing us in the South and really all over the country, involving our spindle repair services. But I always ask Gretchen, can you tell us just a general guess? We're not looking for any specifics, but about how many machine tools do you guys have as far as like CNC at that plant? Or, people don't know, are we talking about a dozen? Are we talking about 50? Are we talking about 100? Are we talking about 1,000?
I would say well over the thousands. Everything from little small things that shake paint cans that are CNC controlled all the way up to big robot assembly cells. So yeah, there's a ton of equipment there and a wide range, everything from autoclaves to vacuum ovens, laser cutters. We even have a few 7-axis machines. So
yeah, I've seen a lot of the 7-axis machines that are impressive. Obviously you guys got 4th axis, 5th axis. We just had Tony Gunn on from 5th Axis. He was on one of our last podcasts doing work holding.
He was great.
But yeah, I've seen a lot of the equipment. You guys run a lot of the big household names that we work on. That's really impressive. Makino, DMG, Mori, Mazak. I guess when I think CNC, I think of machining centers, turning centers. Is that stuff that you get involved with? You get hands on that equipment, or what is really your area expertise?
A little bit of everything, really. So Boeing's kind of broke up, they call them MBUs, manufacturing business units, and each one kind of does its own thing. Probably the most versatile one is the emergent operations, where they kind of have just a wide range of machines that if somebody needs a broken part, they'll pretty much make it from the ground up. But as far as my expertise, I would say it's probably more in the milling and the cutting machines. And lately it's been kind of transitioning through the additive manufacturing process, because that's where I got moved to most recently.
Yeah, we saw that as, the title on LinkedIn, and I was very curious because I know, it's such an emerging technology and so many companies are utilizing it more and more. So how is Boeing utilizing the additive manufacturing?
Currently, they're kind of bringing everything they've had together. So they have like little pockets of additive manufacturing centers. So right now their focus is try to bring everything together, get it under one roof, and then progress from there. They're really kind of starting with a baseline as far as getting their whole parameters and everything set so that they can make sure that they manufacture the same thing every time they make it. It's unlike traditional manufacturing, you start off with a billet of aluminum. You know what that aluminum's made out of. You just got to machine it. Whereas when you're kind of building it from additive, you've got so many different parameters and things like that that can go in there, whereas the final product will really have something different. So trying to outline that, I guess, is where they're at right now.
Do you find that you guys are having to, bring in a lot of training on that and continue to learn the technology, or does it fit in with what you knew before and it's fairly easy?
No, I would say definitely being a technician, unless you work on the same equipment every day, it's a constant training, constant learning, constant evolving. There's no real one class that you could go to kind of figure it out, but it's definitely an evolution of training, no matter where you're at.
And it is
absolutely.
A big evolution.
We see the same thing at Motor City. We're seeing, different machine tools on a regular basis, and really it's all about training your mind how to problem solve and how to understand how the components interwork with one another so that you can understand how to do the repair. I see a lot of what we do, it's more specific, but what you guys are doing on the machine tool side, it's just an ever growing different field, and there's something new to learn every single day.
Yeah, definitely. You don't know, is it a problem with the machine? Is it electrical? Is it a problem with the programmer? Did the programmer mess something up? So you kind of got to know a little bit about everything and kind of put the puzzle all together at the end to get things resolved.
You mentioned earlier, when you got into the machine tool industry, before you came on with Boeing, that you did a lot of travel. Now, we've worked in different parts of the country with Boeing. One of the locations that we work the most with right now is Charleston, South Carolina. We do have a vendor ID. We're working directly with Boeing. We're starting to quote quite a bit of work with Wichita and Spirit Aerosystems. Have you traveled to those facilities? Have you been to Wichita? Have you been to St. Louis? Have you been to Tulsa or Charleston?
The only plant that I've been to aside from Auburn is Everett, which is basically in Washington, and then also up in Winnipeg, Canada.
Okay.
I've been there.
Yeah. No, Portland. I've been down to Portland as well. That's a pretty fantastic facility. They got some monstrous Cincinnati machine tools in there.
Yeah, I haven't been to that one yet.
Okay. When I think about Auburn, I think of Seattle, and I've frequently heard of it as 5 different locations, right? Isn't there? Let's see how good I can do here. You got Auburn, you got Everett, you got Renton, Fredericksburg.
Frederickson?
Oh, Frederickson. Okay, I was close.
Yep.
And there's a 5th. What am I missing?
There's another location in Tukwila, which is kind of like Kent area.
Yep, Kent. That's what usually it's referred to as Kent. So, All right, I'll give myself a B on that.
You're better than me.
So you're at the machining manufacturing side of it. And so what are they manufacturing in Washington?
As far as where we're at, they make pretty much everything. In Auburn, a big part of their business right now is supporting the 737, which we all know, like the 737 MAX right now, they're kind of working on that. So it's kind of taking a downturn, but they make pretty much everything from the wing skins all the way to the last building I was in. They made the heat shields that go between the engine and the wing to kind of give it a little buffer area. So yeah, they make everything from little minor sub-assemblies all the way up to wing skins. It's pretty crazy.
When I was in, we're gonna have to edit this because I paused because I couldn't think of Wichita. But when I was in Wichita, I remember hearing, and seeing the railroad tracks, and I remember hearing that they load the fuselage right there in Wichita, and it goes straight on a train right to Auburn.
Yeah, well, it goes to, I believe it goes to Seattle first.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll go to Seattle where they do their final assembly. Yeah, which is incredible. Pretty crazy.
It really is.
And now the 87 has that Dreamliner plane, so the fuselage is being made in Italy. So they have a plane that goes. If I had to guess, I would say that they would probably end up expanding the Charleston area to take on more work.
Yeah, that would be a nice place. I wouldn't mind. Tad, I'm going to go see that account a good bit for you.
Absolutely. I would love to get down there with you as well, but
I know.
No, we need to we need to definitely get back down there. They had some machine tools that we're working on that are proprietary, but one of the OEMs out of Switzerland looks like they might be, well, I don't know what I can say and can't, but we've been supporting it. They've been struggling with some support from some of the large OEMs, and it's been a wonderful business for us. We got that vendor ID last year, and they've dumped quite a bit of work on us. A lot of high frequency milling spindles. You mentioned working on milling spindles before, Rich. DMG Mori, CMS, a lot of Italian, a lot of German, a lot of Japanese machine tools. So it's always fun. It's always to work on something. And of course, they're always working on the most high-end, state-of-the-art equipment in the manufacturing industry. So they always keep you on your toes. We enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Rich, what do you see as some of the issues you guys, with even like spindle repair? What do you usually see are the biggest issues to have to send those out for repair?
The number one thing that we usually have to send those out for is machine crashes. So maybe a programmer makes a change on it, or the operator hits the wrong button, or his tool is not set up right, and just basically crashes the machine into the bed or some other fixture that they have on there. That's usually what happens when we end up having to send those out.
Do you find that do you ever have to outsource your programming for the CNC machines? I know that I've heard a good bit that companies, they really need the support of outsourcing for programming. Is that something that Boeing does or that you've seen in the past?
The programming to make the physical parts. So that's kind of like NC programming, where you have the part and you have to cut it out. Now, the programming that goes behind the scenes to actually run the machine, they do pretty much regularly outsource that type of programming, just because there's a lot to it and so many different manufacturers, and you have so many systems that kind of work together. It's often easier for them, more cost effective to outsource that.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. Which is good and bad, because if you outsource it, then that knowledge is somewhere else, and that somewhere else isn't always available. Right. So for us, being a technician and things like that, trying to track down that stuff kind of makes it a little challenging. So Ted, what do you see as far as the most repairs go on your spindles?
As far as the root cause?
Yeah, would that be something along the same lines that we see as far as crashes go, or is it like normal wear and tear? Or
no, absolutely. Number one and number two, they're always neck and neck. I think you can talk to just about any third-party rebuilder or any OEM out there, and they're going to tell you number one and number two are neck and neck between crashes and different forms of contamination. Crashes are going to happen because parts are misloaded, the wrong programs are put in place, different types of errors that can occur. And then your contamination can really come in two different forms. You're going to run into coolant ingression or chip ingression. And it's really just the simple fact that, these machine tools are always getting pushed to the absolute limits. They're always getting faster. They're getting bigger. When I first got in the industry, 8,000, 10,000 RPM for a Cat 50, which in the European model is an HSK 100 tool holder, that was considered fast. And then it became 12,000, and then 15, and then 18. And now we're seeing 24,000 RPM. And, we still do a lot of Cat 50 and a lot of HSK 100, but now HSK 63 is really prevalent. There's a lot more people can do with that size shaft and that drawbar holder, tool holder. And, people are going 24,000. DMG Mori, the largest OEM in the world that we're seeing the most spindles from, they just put out a master spindle, 30,000 RPM. I mean, it's triple, triple what it was years ago. Absolutely unbelievable. But we're certified by a company based out of Italy, Milan, Italy, named Balance Systems. And we actually are using a 4.0 system and doing upgrades, which is aftermarket for machine tools to do crash detection and continuous spindle vibration analysis. So we can predict when your spindles are going to fail. We can actually do a emergency stop and e-stop on your spindle. So if you do have a crash, although that crash is still going to stop, although that crash is still going to occur, we can still stop it in a millisecond so that you're doing significantly less damage to the spindle. You're doing less damage to your tombstone, to your table, to your ball screws, you name it. through the entire machine tool. So that's huge. And that's a pretty small investment to do that type of retrofit and upgrade after the fact. If you crash a spindle, you can send it to us. We'll do the repair that ordinarily needs to be done anyways, and then we can upgrade it for you. As far as the coolant ingression, there's some upgrades that we're doing to all different types of machine tools across the industry to help stop chips and coolant getting in, whether it's damaging your drawbar, damaging your spindle bearings, or blowing up your spindle motor.
Yeah, nice.
I know you had said before. What's that?
I said it's definitely a lot to it.
Oh, there is, and a lot of people ask me, what are the top spindles we do? And I tell them, it's usually the top 3 every year is DMG, Mori, Mazak, and Akuma. And people say, well, what's going on? Are they manufacturing bad spindles? And the answer is no. They actually do a really good job. It's just that they're such high-end precision units, and they're such well-selling machines that there's tens of thousands of them out there just in the United States. So I don't know. It's always interesting though. These guys keep pushing the limits. They keep cutting chips and removing metal faster and faster because it's all about cycle time and how fast can you make a part. And it's getting more and more interesting every year as to what these OEMs are putting out.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy.
Hey, Rich.
You mentioned before. Go ahead, Gretchen.
No, I'm sorry. I was just curious how much you're seeing. Everyone is really thinking more and more about automation, especially because of COVID and workforce issues. Have you seen that they are trying to implement more or talking more about it at Boeing with even like the collaborative robots? Have you had any talks on that?
Yeah, definitely. Boeing's focus on automation is more towards getting away from the repetitive work. So like the hand sanding, hand finishing, things like that. So they've started making robot cells that'll do that for you. So they'll basically deburr the part once it's cut out by a laser or whatever, and then sandblast it or media blast it just to get those types of work off of a bench where somebody, after 30 years, of hand sanding, that just takes a toll on people. So that's kind of been their main focus since I've been there, is get away from that type of stuff that causes personal injury over a period of time.
I would assume that's also very true for what we're working on, machining centers and turning centers. A lot of these parts are very big. Sometimes they have very sharp, different edges on them. So I got to imagine loading the components in and out of the machine tools, because we're seeing it all over the country. Even the smaller shops are starting to go to the robots these days.
Yeah, I don't know.
What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Ice cream.
I love cookie dough. Moose Tracks is absolutely fantastic. If you throw peanut butter on it, it's even better.
Oh,
That's
God.
one thing I've learned in COVID is that peanut butter makes everything better. I would agree. My mind, I'm kind of a crazy guy, that. The first thing that jumped in my head was, what could I put on it that's ridiculous? I've started putting it on so many things in COVID that I never thought of before. If you're not taking a scoop of peanut butter out and just putting it on the side of your bowl when you're eating ice cream, you're making a mistake, I think. Granola, fire that in there. Those are my ice cream tips of the day.
That sounds good. I think we're all going to go out and get peanut butter.
Yeah,
actually, I got a pool full of kids right now, but my daughter asked if we could go to Dairy Queen here after, so I'll be going there by 6 o'clock today.
That sounds like a winner. Well,
yeah, the wife usually asks for a small, so I usually get a large and we split it.
Yeah, I like the mini blizzard because sometimes that's all you need, and or you can get like 2 different flavors that way.
No, they're great.